Honestly, guys notice it more when you're out winning games, right? If Cleveland starts off in a bad start, they're not doing well, and all of a sudden Shador or Dylan Gabriel are doing well in 7-on-7. They're throwing dimes. In practice drills, the number one defense can't stop them. People take notice of that, and the more that the players see it, they're gonna then the comments start happening over the lunch table. They start happening throughout the building, and that's when the pressure really will get severe.
Only the Cleveland Browns could pay a quarterback $230 million guaranteed, bench him for a guy who is basically retired, and then get roasted by a man who dresses up like a parade mummer in his free time. That's not an NFL franchise. That's an episode of Impractical Jokers with shoulder pads. And yet here we are, because Jason Kelce, yes, the same Jason Kelce.
And they open with the Cincinnati Bengals. They wanted that experienced guy. He was always going to be the guy. They were not going to start Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders in week one. Kenny Pickett had a hamstring injury. It makes it easy to go with Joe Flacco. And the question isn't and wasn't going to be who's the starter in Cleveland. The question is who's going to be the backup in Cleveland. Who's going to be the number 2 quarterback when they open the season against these Bengals.
Kelce, who should be golfing and chugging beers in retirement, just dropped a truth bomb so savage that it had Jimmy Haslam, the billionaire owner of the Browns, pacing around like a toddler who just got told he can't have dessert. What exactly did Kelce say that sent Cleveland spiraling into chaos? Buckle up, because this one's messier than the Browns' playbook after week 1. Let's set the stage. Cleveland thought their biggest problem this year was going to be, the usual, figuring out which guy could actually throw the football without launching it into orbit. But then Jason Kelce casually says out loud what every fan already knows. Cleveland is one quarterback injury away from imploding, and Joe Flacco's magical cameo was a fairy tale destined to end at midnight. Boom. One retired lineman, one honest sentence, and Haslam reportedly went full meltdown. We're talking fuming, slamming doors, probably Googling how to buy a new NFL team at 3 a.m. And here's the comedy. Kelce wasn't even mean about it. He just said the truth. But in Cleveland, the truth hits harder than Myles Garrett hitting a rookie quarterback. Fans weren't mad. Oh no, fans were laughing. Because the dog pound has developed a sixth sense for pain. Browns fans know disappointment so well they could bottle it and sell it as a craft beer. So when Kelce called them out, they weren't shocked. They were like, finally, somebody said it. But Haslam? Oh, he lost it. Imagine a billionaire storming around his office, assistants hiding behind laptops, muttering about loyalty, while throwing stress balls at the wall. This is a man who already handcuffed his team with the Deshaun Watson deal, $230 million fully guaranteed, and got, let's be generous here, absolutely nothing close to Houston-era Watson. Injuries, rust, and performances that looked like he wandered onto the wrong field by accident. And when Watson wasn't available, Cleveland turned to Joe Flacco. Yes, Joe Flacco. A man who was practically retired, probably shopping for lawn fertilizer, suddenly out there tossing touchdowns like it was 2012 again. And Browns fans? They loved it, which only made Watson's contract look even worse. See, that's the Browns' curse. Other teams make mistakes. The Browns build monuments to their mistakes. They don't just trip on the sidewalk. They trip, faceplant, and then hold a ribbon-cutting ceremony to commemorate the crack they tripped on. Johnny Manziel? They convinced themselves he was the next Joe Montana. Hugh Jackson? They gave him another year just to see if losing could become a full-time brand. Deshaun Watson? They didn't gamble. They dove into the deep end of bad decisions with every single dollar guaranteed. And then there's poor Shador Sanders. This kid didn't even get a chance to be trash. He was thrown behind an offensive line that looked like it was recruited off Uber. The man was set up to fail from the jump. Even people who don't like Shador had to admit he didn't even get a fair shot to stink. And Browns fans noticed. Jason Kelce noticed. And when he said it out loud, boom, instant meltdown. But here's the real roast. The AFC North isn't a friendly neighborhood. It's not like, oh hey, we're all mediocre, maybe you'll stumble into first place. No. This is NFL Hunger Games. Lamar Jackson is out here running like he installed cheat codes. Joe Burrow could probably throw touchdowns blindfolded in a hospital gown. The Steelers? They don't even collapse. They reload. They rebuild tougher every single year under Mike Tomlin. Meanwhile, Cleveland shows up to a heavyweight fight wearing water wings and hoping no one notices. S.O. when Kelce said, Cleveland, you're in trouble. It wasn't just an opinion. It was the football version of a doctor telling you the x-rays are bad. And that's what Haslam couldn't handle. Not the fans, not the memes, not even the sports talk shows piling on. No, What broke him was that Jason Kelce is respected. This isn't a random Twitter troll in his mom's basement. This is a Super Bowl champion, a guy who knows what a stable organization looks like. So when he points at Cleveland and says this house is on fire, people listen, and the best part? The fans agreed. They weren't even mad at Kelce. They were posting memes, laughing, tweeting things like, "He just said what we've been screaming for 20 years. That's how you know a franchise is broken. When your own fan base sides with the guy roasting you instead of defending you. Now let's talk cap space. Because if you thought the on-field mess was bad, the financial situation is a horror movie. Watson's contract has handcuffed this team worse than an overzealous TSA agent. Nearly a quarter of the entire salary cap locked up in one player who hasn't looked a lead in years. That means Cleveland can't even build depth. They're forced to duct tape holes on the roster while their rivals are stacking weapons like it's an arms race. In the AFC North, good enough means you're already dead. And right now, Cleveland's not even good enough. But this is why Jason Kelce's words landed so hard. Because they weren't mean, they weren't exaggerated, they were facts. Cold, unfiltered facts that fans knew but Haslam didn't want said out loud. And when a billionaire loses control of the narrative, he doesn't just pout, he implodes. Picture it. Jimmy Haslam, billionaire owner, pacing in his office, furious not at his team's actual mistakes, but at the fact someone dared to say them out loud. That's Cleveland in a nutshell. A franchise so allergic to accountability they'd rather rage at the messenger than fix the message. And if you think the story is over, think again. The Browns are still one bad break, one ACL tear, one Flacco retirement away from collapsing again. And history tells us that collapse isn't if, it's when. So yeah, Jason Kelce didn't start a fire. He just pointed to the flames Cleveland had been ignoring and yelled, "Hey guys, your house is burning down." And honestly, that might be the funniest part of all. Because Browns fans, bless their souls, already knew. They've been living in the smoke for decades. And if you're a Browns fan still hanging on, still daring to hope, I'll tell you this. Hit that subscribe button, because unlike Cleveland's playoff dreams, this story isn't going away anytime soon.